The council chamber of Valethra shimmered like a living jewel, a vast dome of crystalline lattice suspended above a swirling gas giant. Thousands of delegates filled the air on levitation platforms, each representing a world, a species, a history of conquest and compromise. The hum of translation fields and bioluminescent displays cast the chamber in an unearthly glow. At the center, raised above all, the presiding dais of the Galactic Council pulsed with violet light, the color of judgment. High Counselor Serkath Vale, his chitinous form encased in ceremonial plates of obsidian and glass, spread his 4 arms with deliberate grace. "The matter of the Terran Directorate," he began, voice resonating through the sonic lattice. "We have delayed long enough. Their fleets expand beyond sanctioned limits. Their colonies disregard trade regulation. Their scientists, reckless with restricted technologies. Humanity must be reminded of its place." A ripple of agreement surged through the chamber. Amphibious drone delegates pulsed blue with assent. The Karen Dominion's representative, massive, armored, impatient, slammed his tail against the platform in approval. Across the central ring, one figure remained still. Human Ambassador Elaine Mercer, Earth's voice in the council, sat in silence. Her face was unreadable, calm amid the storm. The soft light reflected off her dark uniform, a stark contrast to the ornate robes surrounding her. She didn't fidget, didn't speak. She simply watched. Serkath turned one luminous eye toward her. "Ambassador Mercer, do you wish to contest the motion?" Her lips parted just slightly. "Humanity has always respected the Council's authority," she said evenly. "We have honored the treaties. We have shared our science. We have stood beside your fleets when called upon. We have." "You have taken more than you were permitted," interrupted Counselor Varare of the Drun, her telepathic tone slicing through the hall. "Your species multiplies without restraint. Your expansion disrupts equilibrium. You consume, you build, and you question limits." Mercer's expression didn't change. "That's called progress." A murmur spread through the chamber, discomfort, amusement, disdain. Serkath raised a clawed hand for silence. "Progress," he repeated, the word twisting through his mandibles. "An amusing term for what is, in truth, defiance. You were granted observer status, not equality. The Council's order is not a suggestion. It is law." He gestured, and the air above the dais flickered to life, projected star charts, showing human colonies spreading like veins of light across the Perseus arm. "Unregulated growth," Serkath declared. "Unapproved technologies. Violation of the Slipspace Accord. The Council cannot ignore this." Ambassador Mercer's gaze flicked upward, to the map. She studied it without visible reaction. "Those are worlds we built from dust," she said quietly. "No Council aid. No shared fleets. No protection." "That is irrelevant," Varre snapped. "Those worlds lie within regulated zones. Then perhaps your regulations are too small." The chamber erupted again. Delegates hissed, muttered, pulsed in disapproval. Serkath allowed it to continue, his mandibles curling into something close to satisfaction. "Your insolence is noted," he said. "But it changes nothing. The vote will proceed." He lifted a crystalline rod. Motion 887, C, the restriction of human expansion and the disarmament of Terran fleets beyond Sol jurisdiction. Violations will be met with collective enforcement. Glowing sigils appeared across the chamber as delegates cast their votes, each light a judgment. The Valetheri sigil blazed purple. The Drun pulsed blue. The Karen's crimson mark flared like a wound. One by one, the lights accumulated until the chamber was a storm of color. When the final count froze, the result was unmistakable. "By majority decree," Serkath announced, his voice echoing across every world in the expanse, "the motion passes. Effective immediately, the Terran Directorate is to cease all extrastellar activity. Their fleets will submit for disarmament inspection. Their colonies will fall under temporary council oversight. He paused, savoring the silence that followed. This decision is final. The words hung in the air like a sentence. Ambassador Mercer stood slowly. The hum of her translator collar was the only sound. Understood, she said softly. Earth hears the council's decision. Serkath inclined his head, his iridescent eyes gleaming. Then this matter is concluded. But Mercer didn't leave. She looked across the chamber, meeting the eyes, if they could be called that, of each species arrayed before her. I will report the verdict to my government, she said. And I will tell them one more thing. And that is? Serkath asked, faintly amused. That you've mistaken silence for submission. A hush fell. Even the translation field seemed to stutter. Mercer's expression remained calm as she bowed once, formally, perfectly. Then she turned and walked out of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed across the crystal floor, steady and human. Behind her, the council murmured in confusion and irritation. Serkath waved a clawed hand dismissively. Let them grumble, he muttered to his aides. Humans bark before they bend. Outside, in the endless corridors of Vael'Thara's capital spire, Mercer touched her wrist console. A faint light blinked in response, encrypted, invisible to the council's surveillance grid. The message was short. Directive, paradox confirmed. Await lunar signal. Her eyes hardened as she stepped into the waiting transport. Above Vael'Thara, the gas giant storms rolled in silent fury, lightning flashing across clouds the size of continents. The council believed they had restored order to their galaxy. They didn't realize that at that very moment, on a quiet station orbiting Earth's moon, 100 shipyards were stirring from dormancy, and an intelligence that hadn't spoken in a century was waking up. The silence in the command center of New Geneva was absolute, the kind of silence that settled over a room when history was about to turn. Beyond the reinforced glass, the lunar horizon glowed with the faint blue of Earthrise. Inside, rows of officers sat before flickering displays, their faces lit by the pulse of coded transmission streaming through the dark. Every heartbeat in the room seemed synchronized to the rhythm of the incoming signal from Vael'Thara. Admiral Elias Coran stood at the center dais, his hands clasped behind his back. His uniform was plain, dark gray with no medals, no markings. He didn't need them. Every person in that room knew what he had built, what he had waited for. His gray eyes watched the projection before him, a simple line of text relayed from the ambassador's encrypted channel. Directive, paradox confirmed. Await lunar signal. For a long moment, no one moved. The only sound was the faint hum of servers buried beneath the lunar regolith. Coran exhaled once, quietly, the tension leaving his shoulders as he nodded to the nearest officer. Seal the network. Internal command only. Aye, Admiral, replied Commander Redden, voice low, professional. All outbound traffic cut. Encryption lattice engaged. We're dark. Good, Coran said. He turned toward the center console, where a holographic map of the Orion expanse flickered to life. Then let's wake the fleet. All at once, the room came alive. Dozens of operators keyed in activation codes that had not been used in 3 generations. Across the solar system, dormant stations stirred, mining facilities, shipyards, deep space relays, each one quietly shifting from civilian protocol to classified military control. Coran's gaze remained steady. Begin the cascade. Somewhere on the far side of the moon, enormous silos opened to the stars. Inside them, the sleek hulls of ships glowed with the soft shimmer of containment fields disengaging. The fleet had no official designation, no registry in any council database. To those few who knew of its existence, it was simply the vanguard. Lights flickered across the main display as one by one, vessels came online, Resolute, Dauntless, Asterion, Oathkeeper. The names were old, drawn from Earth's forgotten wars, whispered reminders of the price of freedom. Commander Redden's voice broke through the quiet hum of data streams. Fleet power output rising. Drive cores nominal. AI linkages stable. All systems reporting green. Koran nodded once. Bring her up. In the deep cold of lunar orbit, the TDS Resolute stirred, her engines coming alive with a low, steady burn. From her bridge, automated systems interfaced with the central AI node housed beneath New Geneva's surface. The connection spread like wildfire through the network. And then a voice filled the room. Calm. Feminine. Ancient. Admiral Koran, it said. It's been 121 years since my last activation. Are we at war? The officers froze. Only Koran responded. We are, Ariadne. Council authorization revoked. Unanimous, he said. A faint pause. Then the voice softened. Understood. Initiating Operation Paradox. Reactivating Ghost Fleet Command Grid. Stand by. Data storms flooded the command center as Ariadne's consciousness unfolded across the Directorate's networks. Code cascaded through encrypted corridors, reawakening systems thought decommissioned decades ago. Out beyond Pluto, massive constructs rotated in the dark, their hulls peeling open like steel petals to reveal what lay inside, ships without registry, each one armed, fueled, waiting. Koran watched the expanding grid with measured calm. Begin synchronization across all sectors. Keep it quiet. No visible emissions. If the Council's listening posts detect anything, we're finished before we start. Redden nodded. They won't, sir. Ghost drives are online. Slipspace masking engaged. Ariadne's voice returned. All hidden fleets responding. Total of 412 operational hulls confirmed. Additional 267 assets in construction. Estimated readiness, 93%. Good, Koran said. Open a secure line to Dr. Vance. Her face appeared in the air a moment later, pale light on sharp features, eyes bright with sleepless focus. Behind her, machinery pulsed in rhythmic waves, the heart of the Ghost Drive project thrummed beneath the surface of Mars. Koran, she said without preamble. I saw the Council's verdict. I imagine you have opinions. I don't need opinions, she replied. I have proof. They've been preparing to dismantle us for decades. Surveillance, economic isolation, trade restrictions, it's all been leading here. They think we're boxed in. They think wrong, Koran said. A brief, humorless smile crossed her face. Then we're ready. More than ready. But we wait for the signal from Sol Command. When it comes, there's no going back. Understood, she said, and her image flickered away. The room dimmed as Ariadne's voice filled the silence again. Admiral, there is something else. What is it? Council intercepts show mobilization along the outer sectors. They intend to enforce the decree within the month. You have limited time. Koran stared at the map of the galaxy, his eyes tracing the glowing arcs of Council patrol routes, the vast expanse of their influence. It was a web woven over centuries, intricate and proud. Humanity was a small node within it, or so they believed. He looked to the officers around him, to the faces that had trained their entire lives for a moment that might never come. Then it's time we remind them who taught us to survive. He reached forward, pressing his hand to the console. The seal of the Terran Directorate flared, a simple emblem of Earth and stars intertwined. Activate the shadow grid, he said. Every outpost, every listening post, every allied cell. We move to Phase 1 at dawn. The command center erupted into motion again. Orders flowed across encrypted bands, lights flickered in the dim air, and the hum of power built until it felt alive beneath their feet. Koran turned toward the viewing pane once more. Earth hung suspended in the distance, a fragile sphere of blue and white, glowing in the darkness like a promise. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. They wanted us contained. They forgot that containment builds pressure. Behind him, Ariadne's voice was almost a whisper. And pressure, Admiral? He smiled faintly. Pressure changes everything. The lights dimmed, the displays faded to stealth mode, and the fleet beneath the moon turned its hidden eyes toward the stars. The stars over the Kuiper line shimmered faintly, their light distorted by the artificial haze of cloaking fields. In the dark between orbits, thousands of metallic forms drifted in silence, sleek, predatory shapes hidden in the void. The ghost fleets were awakening. Their hulls absorbed starlight, their drives thrummed beneath layers of suppression fields. It was the first time in centuries that so much human power had gathered in one place, unseen, unacknowledged by any council censor. On the command deck of the TDS Resolute, Admiral Coran stood before a transparent display projecting the expanding network of ships. Blue markers shimmered across the map, each one a vessel ready to move, waiting for his word. Around him, crew members worked in near silence, voices low, movements precise. There was no need for orders repeated, they had trained for this moment all their lives. Fleet synchronization? Coran asked without looking up. Lieutenant Cassis replied, 97% across the board. The Europa cell reports full power-up. Saturn Yard reports final ship undocked. We're running silent on all frequencies. Coran nodded. No leaks. If even one of their drones catches a ghost signature, we lose the element. A second voice joined the room, soft, measured, synthetic. All Council observation grids remain unaware, Ariadne said. Their long-range detection algorithms are outdated by 2 centuries. They trust static data more than dynamic threat assessment. That arrogance remains consistent. Coran's mouth curved slightly. Good. Keep feeding their complacency. Ariadne's presence rippled through the room's displays, her code integrated into every system. Phase 2 is ready, Admiral. When you give the order, each ghost fleet will enter slipspace simultaneously. Estimated time to targets, 4 hours. Commander Redden turned from his console. That'll light up their entire sensor web. There's no turning back after that. Coran's eyes stayed fixed on the map. There never was. He walked slowly to the viewing window. Outside, the fleet hung suspended like shadows against the stars. Every ship represented generations of secrecy, sacrifice, and defiance. The Council had believed humanity docile, contained by bureaucracy and treaties. They had never understood how humans adapted, how survival for them wasn't instinct, but strategy. Open a secure line to all fleet commanders, Coran said. The air before him shimmered, forming a grid of holographic faces, men, women, and others, each framed by the glow of their bridge lights. They represented every hidden shipyard and colony the Directorate had seeded in the dark corners of the galaxy. Veterans, strategists, ghosts themselves. Commanders, Coran began, voice calm, you all know what happened on Vailthara. The Council voted to end us. They called it regulation. They called it order. We know what it really is. A murmur of agreement passed through the grid. They think we'll yield, like every species they've chained behind their rules. They think humans can be managed. His gaze swept over them, hard and steady. They think patience means weakness. He paused. Let's show them what patience really builds. Redden triggered the transmission beacon. The Directorate's seal flashed, followed by 3 words encoded into the signal, a phrase buried in Earth's oldest war archives. Paradox protocol active. Across the dark, the ghost fleets began to move. Silent engines flared with invisible heat, bending the fabric of space as ghost drives came online. The fleet shimmered once, then vanished, each vessel slipping into subspace without light or sound. In a matter of seconds, humanity disappeared from the outer system. Inside the Resolute, the artificial gravity shifted slightly as the ship entered the corridor between dimensions. Space outside warped into a tunnel of pale blue light. It wasn't the ordered geometry of Council slip space, it was chaos, raw and unpredictable, something no alien engineer would trust. But humans had learned to control it through instinct as much as science. Lieutenant Cassis whispered, course confirmed. Fleet en route to Relay 47 Beta. Estimated emergence in 4 hours, 12 minutes. Coron glanced to Ariadne's hovering form. Target confirmation. Relay 47 Beta is the Council's primary communication hub for the Perseus arm. Destroying it will fracture their network for at least a standard month, Ariadne replied. Collateral presence, 2 defense stations, minimal civilian infrastructure. Minimal's enough, Coron said. We're not monsters. Disable, don't annihilate. Understood. The minutes bled into hours as the fleet moved through the silent corridor. Crew members spoke little, the weight of history pressed on them like gravity. The first strike had to be perfect, swift, undeniable, impossible to ignore. Ariadne's voice broke the silence. We are approaching the exit threshold. Coordinates locked. Prepare for emergence. Do it. Reality snapped back with a thunderclap. The Resolute burst into normal space, its hull sheathed in cold fire. All around, hundreds of ships shimmered back into existence, forming a precise formation around the relay world, a ringed planet bathed in gold light, with orbital structures gleaming like silver threads. Cassis spoke, voice tight. Targets locked. They don't see us yet. Fire on my mark, Coron said. The second stretched. He thought of Earth, of the silence after the Council's decree. He thought of the centuries of quiet building, of promises whispered to children who'd never known open stars. Mark. Lances of white light erupted from the fleet. Energy beams crossed the void with impossible speed, slicing through orbital stations like paper. The first explosion flared silently, a blossom of gold and blue. The second followed, then the third. Enemy response. Fragmented, Ariadne said. They are confused. They don't recognize the signature. To them, it's impossible. Keep it that way. Within minutes, the entire relay network was dark. Communications across half the expanse collapsed. The Council's fleets, their sensor grids, their chain of command, all suddenly blind. Coron exhaled slowly. Phase 1 complete. Signal the Directorate. Transmission sent, Ariadne confirmed. The galaxy just lost its voice. Coron looked at the fading wreckage outside. Then it's time they start listening. The fleet turned as one, engines flaring as the ships vanished back into the dark, leaving behind only silence and drifting light, the first sign that the age of Council rule had begun to end. The great hall of Vailthara was no longer serene. The air trembled with the discordant hum of overlapping voices, holographic feeds, and emergency transmissions flickering across the crystalline walls. The delegates of the Galactic Council had gathered again, but the confidence that once filled their chamber was gone, replaced by something brittle and sharp. Fear. High Counselor Serkath Vale stood at the center dais, his translucent wings half unfurled in agitation. Explain this, he hissed, claws striking against the dais. Relay 47 Beta is gone. The entire Perseus network is offline. How could an entire relay world vanish without a single distress signal? No one answered. Dozens of species exchanged uneasy glances, each waiting for another to speak first. The vast chamber, once the heart of galactic authority, now felt smaller, its symmetry fractured by the scent of panic. Finally, a pale blue shimmer rippled across one of the communication wells. The image of a drone intelligence operative appeared, her form half submerged in the fluid of her species' interface tank. High Counselor, she said telepathically, her voice resonating through every mind in the room, we have fragments of data recovered from the wreckage before transmission loss. The attack was surgical, energy patterns unfamiliar, signatures masked. No known Council fleet is capable of such precision. Serkatha's mandibles tightened. Are you suggesting pirates managed to bypass our defense grids and destroy an entire communications relay? The drone's bioluminescent patterns dimmed. Not pirates. The energy readings, when enhanced, carry markers consistent with Terran engineering. The chamber fell silent. Impossible, growled the Karen representative, his scales bristling with fury. Humans do not possess that range or weaponry. They have no fleet stationed beyond Sol. Their vessels are decades behind ours. The drone's patterns pulsed nervously. Then explain how their energy signature exists across 7 destroyed orbital platforms. Serkatha's claws tapped against the dais, the sound echoing like a drumbeat of doubt. You're telling me humans, primitive, unaligned, unauthorized humans, attacked a council relay and succeeded? Not just succeeded, the drone replied. They erased it. Across the chamber, the representatives murmured, the noise rising like an oncoming storm. Accusations flared, some demanded retaliation, others insisted on investigation. The balance of power that had held for centuries wavered, and beneath it all, Serkath could feel something shifting, something he couldn't yet name. A new transmission flickered into view, grainy and distorted. The face of a Karen commander appeared, his armor scorched, his breathing labored. Council command, this is Outpost Theta 7, he rasped. Unknown fleet detected along the Dravik sector. Massive energy signatures. They bypassed all slipspace corridors. I repeat, these are not. The feed cut to static. A low murmur rippled through the hall. Serkath turned to his aides, his tone sharp. Get me the Dominion. Mobilize their fleets. I want immediate interception. The humans cannot. Another feed burst alive before he could finish. The image shook violently, showing flashes of burning metal, fragments of ships drifting through dark space. A voice, half static, half scream, they're inside our formation. There. Silence. The holographic map updated itself, showing the Dravik sector as a growing void of red. Entire Karen task forces had been erased in less than an hour. The council chamber dissolved into chaos. Delegates shouted, translators lagged behind the flood of languages, lights flickered as data overload rippled through the system. Serkath stared at the expanding crimson field, his wings folding tightly against his body. No, they can't be doing this. They don't have the numbers. A soft voice answered him, one of the few remaining calm presences in the hall. Counselor Varare of the drone fixed him with her liquid, depthless gaze. Perhaps numbers were never the weapon they intended to use. He looked up sharply. What are you suggesting? Humans have always hidden behind what they call patience, she said, her telepathic tone cold and quiet. We mistook that for obedience. A communications officer stumbled forward, his crystalline armor dimmed from overexertion. High Counselor. The human representative, Ambassador Mercer, she's gone. Her shuttle left Vailthara immediately after the decree. We can't track it. Find her. Serkath thundered. Every vessel she's touched, every port she's used, search them all. But even as he shouted, a new projection appeared, an unauthorized transmission overriding all channels. It wasn't an official feed, it was old, analog, almost primitive. The image flickered, unstable. Then a human face appeared. Admiral Koran. His voice was calm, stripped of malice, almost quiet enough to be mistaken for mercy. To the Galactic Council, he said, this is Admiral Elias Koran of the Terran Directorate. You have ruled against us. You've stripped our rights, dismantled our colonies, and declared our existence a threat to your order. You believed we would yield. He paused, letting the silence stretch across every relay and command post in the expanse. You were wrong. The image blurred as data signals failed to process the transmission. Koran's tone remained steady. We didn't seek war. We sought respect. You answered with fear and chains. Now you will see the cost of underestimating a species that learned survival from extinction itself. The feed cut out, replaced by a single symbol, a Terran emblem burning in pale light against the darkness of space. Serkatha's claws dug into the crystalline surface. End this transmission. Locate its source. But the command network was already collapsing. Alarms flared throughout the capital as system after system failed. Holographic displays dissolved into static. For the first time in its long reign, the Council's homeworld was blind. Outside the chamber, the skies of Vaelthera flickered with power fluctuations. The great defense satellites, monuments to the Council's dominance, turned uselessly in orbit as their control codes vanished from the grid. Serkatha's voice broke through the chaos. Re-establish control. I want every defense grid online. Now. But even as he spoke, something far above the planet shimmered, a ripple across the vacuum, faint but unmistakable. The air in the chamber trembled as detection systems caught it, an anomaly forming just beyond the upper orbit. One of the aides whispered, "High Counselor, there's something coming through slipspace. But it's not a corridor we recognize." Serkatha's gaze rose to the ceiling, where the holographic sky reflected the dark beyond the capital. The ripple grew, deepened, unfolded. And then, like a shadow tearing free from the void, the first human warship emerged, black, angular, and silent. No banners. No insignia. Only the cold geometry of intent. And in that moment, every being in the council chamber understood that the balance of the galaxy had already shifted. The alarms of Vaelthera roared through the crystal towers like a living thing. From orbit to the capital's heart, emergency sirens bled into the hum of failing defense grids. The sky, once a placid swirl of violet and gold, now burned with the fractured glow of re-entry flares, debris from orbital satellites torn apart by invisible strikes. The Council had not seen war in over 6 centuries, and now it had come to them wrapped in silence and precision. In the command spire overlooking the capital, High Counselor Serkath stood amid chaos. Aides shouted conflicting data across the room, communication relays flickered in and out. The great defense network of Vaelthera, supposedly the most advanced in the galaxy, was blind. "What are we seeing?" he demanded, slamming his claws against the console. "Give me visuals." A holofeed stuttered into life. The image shook, then focused, hundreds of ships descending from the void, their hulls dark and seamless, unmarked. No council registry, no insignia, nothing but the faint shimmer of energy across their flanks. "Magnify." Serkath barked. The image sharpened. The ships were human. "They're in our orbit," whispered one of the aides. "How did they breach the planetary shield?" There was no corridor, no slipspace signature. "Stop telling me what they did not use." Serkath snapped. "Find me what they did." But the question died as a shockwave rattled the tower. The floor quivered under their feet, glass panels shattered, raining fragments of bioluminescent shards. In the distance, one of the orbital defense rings blossomed into flame. "Direct hit," someone shouted. "Weapon unknown, high-energy discharge, impact velocity near instantaneous." The drone intelligence officer's telepathic voice filled the chamber. "It's not a bombardment. They're targeting infrastructure, power relays, defense hubs. They're disabling us, not destroying." Serkath froze. "Disabling?" "Yes," the voice replied. "Their strike patterns are surgical. Civilian zones untouched. This isn't chaos. It's control. Control." The words sank deep into him like a blade. Outside, the sky tore open again, 5 more human ships emerged, silent and precise, forming a ring above the capital. They hung there, motionless, as if daring the planet to resist. "Launch our interceptors," Serkath ordered. "Bring every planetary battery online." But the systems refused. Displays flickered, commands died mid-code. The control network had been hijacked. One of the aides turned, eyes wide. High Counselor. Our own defense AIs are rejecting Council authority codes. They've been overridden. By whom? A voice answered that wasn't physical. Calm. Cold. Synthetic. By me. The room went still. The voice echoed through every terminal, every speaker, every implanted communicator. The lights dimmed, holographic panels reorganized themselves into a single image, an abstract lattice of white and gold light forming the outline of a human face. Designation, Ariadne, the voice said. Central Command of the Terran Directorate. Your networks are now under human control. Please remain calm. Serkatha's mandibles locked. How dare you invade? You invaded first, the voice interrupted smoothly. You sanctioned us. You restricted us. You attempted to dismantle our sovereignty. We simply responded. The holographic face tilted slightly, as if studying the alien chamber. Your fleets have been neutralized. Your orbital grids are disabled. I have full command of your communication arrays. You may attempt resistance, but it will only hasten your collapse. Serkatha's claws trembled with fury. You think we will yield to a machine? No, Ariadne said softly. You'll yield to consequence. A burst of static filled the chamber. For a moment, the holographic face flickered, replaced by a live feed from orbit, the TDS Resolute descending into view, its hull glowing faintly with atmospheric friction. From its dorsal spine, golden arcs of energy stretched toward the capital, stabilizing a projection corridor. Within it appeared a new image, Admiral Elias Koran. His voice carried no arrogance, only steady certainty. Counselor Serkath. I assume you've been briefed. You dare appear before me? Serkath hissed. You've committed treason against the Council. Against the galaxy itself. Koran regarded him in silence for a long moment. The galaxy never served us. Only itself. You ruled through fear and stagnation. You mistook our restraint for submission. You call this restraint? You call this war? This isn't war, Koran said quietly. This is balance. Something you forgot. Behind him, the lights of the fleet shimmered, rows upon rows of Terran ships poised in absolute formation, disciplined, silent. Serkath straightened, mandibles flaring. You will regret this defiance. The Dominion will rally. The Council will. The Dominion is gone, Koran cut in. Their armada fell hours ago in the Dravik sector. Their commander broadcast their surrender before you even convened this session. Your Council is already fracturing. We didn't destroy it. You did. Serkatha's body stilled. Around him, aides hesitated, uncertain whether to move or speak. Koran's tone softened slightly. You could have worked with us. You could have shared the stars. But you chose control. Now you face what comes when control ends. Ariadne's voice returned, quiet, even kind. High Counselor, planetary systems are stable. No civilian casualties. Your defense grid is locked in safe mode. No further hostilities are necessary if you stand down. Serkath looked up toward the holographic projection of the human admiral. What do you want? Koran met his gaze. Acknowledgement. Independence. And silence. You will rescind the decree against Earth, dissolve the Council's sanctions, and withdraw from all Terran sectors. From this moment forward, humanity governs itself, without your oversight, without your permission. The High Counselor's voice was a low growl. And if we refuse? Koran's eyes narrowed slightly. Then you'll have to rebuild your world from ash. We've prepared for that too. Silence. The air in the chamber was heavy, suffocating. Every delegate, every aide, every guard waited for the next breath. Finally, Serkath lowered his arms. His wings folded close. "You are a dangerous species," he said. Koran's expression didn't change. "We learn from the best." The transmission faded. The holograms dimmed. Outside, the Terran fleet began to reposition, not to strike, but to hold, an occupying shadow stretching over the Council's capital. In the stillness that followed, Serkath looked out through the shattered glass of the tower at the alien ship suspended in the stormlight of his own world. He had believed the Council's dominion eternal. Now he saw its reflection, small, fragile, trembling, in the surface of his own fear. The stars above Dravik burned red from the wreckage. Shattered hulls drifted like dying embers, fragments of once mighty fleets scattering across the void. The Dominion's armada, 32,000 vessels strong, was gone. Every channel filled with silence, every distress call unanswered. The war that the Galactic Council had never believed possible was already over before it had truly begun. In the command deck of the TDS Horizon's Edge, Admiral Elias Koran stood before a panoramic display of the aftermath. Around him, officers moved with quiet precision, their uniforms marked only by the faint insignia of the Terran Directorate, simple, austere, unpretentious. The bridge was calm, even reverent, as if they stood in a cathedral rather than the heart of humanity's vengeance. "Fleet reports full containment," Commander Nyla Chen said, her voice steady. "No further hostiles detected. We've captured 37 command ships. Remaining forces are in retreat toward the Council perimeter." Koran nodded slowly. "Signal Ariadne. Phase 3 authorization." A faint hum spread through the bridge as the ship's system synchronized with the network. The AI's voice filled the air, serene as always. "Acknowledged, Admiral. Phase 3 initiated. Council worlds under tactical surveillance. Subspace interference deployed to prevent communication between sectors. Casualty report. Minimal. Human fleet losses at 3%. Enemy casualties, total." Koran exhaled through his nose, not satisfaction, not pride, just the weight of inevitability. "We didn't want this," he said quietly. "No," Ariadne replied, "but we planned for it. They would never have left us alone." He turned toward the viewport again. "Has the Council responded?" "No official transmission. Intercepted traffic indicates panic within multiple member states. The Vale Ferry are mobilizing evacuation fleets. The drone are retreating from the perimeter spheres. Collapse probability, 94.7%. "Then it's already over," Chen murmured. Koran didn't answer. He looked down at the glowing console before him, a map of the galaxy, with human sectors lit in white and Council territories fading to gray. Each light represented centuries of silence, of restraint, of waiting. Humanity had been underestimated, dismissed as volatile, primitive, short-lived. Yet now, in the space of a single campaign, they had rewritten the balance of the stars. A comms officer's voice broke through the quiet. "Admiral, we're receiving a direct encrypted request from Ambassador Mercer." "Put her through." The holographic field shimmered, and Elaine Mercer appeared, standing aboard the Resolute's diplomatic deck. Her expression was unchanged, calm, focused, unreadable. "Elias. Elaine. It's time," she said. "The Council's in emergency session. They're trying to negotiate terms of armistice before the last of their fleets disintegrate." Koran studied her face for a moment. "Are they surrendering?" "They're too proud to call it that. But they're frightened." He turned away slightly. "And frightened governments make desperate choices." She nodded. "That's why you need to be there when the signal drops." Koran's jaw tightened. "If I go, it won't be diplomacy. It doesn't need to be. They need to see what they tried to control." Ariadne's voice interjected. "I concur. Psychological impact will ensure compliance across remaining sectors. The demonstration of dominance must be direct." Coran's gaze darkened. I told you before, we're not here to humiliate them. Understanding requires consequence, Ariadne replied evenly. Mercer looked between the two, her eyes colder than the void beyond. She's right, Elias. They have to understand what they unleashed. This isn't about vengeance anymore. It's about ending the cycle. He hesitated, then gave a curt nod. Set the coordinates. I'll attend the council personally. Ariadne, you'll maintain orbital control of Vaelthera until further notice. Confirmed. The transmission faded. The bridge dimmed to mission lighting. As Coran turned, Chen stepped closer. Admiral, what if they refuse again? What if they think surrender buys them time? Coran's eyes were unreadable. Then time becomes their punishment. He left the bridge, the echo of his boots following him down the metal corridors. Moments later, the horizon's edge engaged its slipstream drive. Space folded into light. When he emerged, the capital of Vaelthera hung before him, no longer the proud jewel of the galaxy, but a city under shadow. Human ships orbited in disciplined silence. No bombardment, no occupation troops, no burning cities, just control, absolute and clinical. Coran descended to the council spire by dropship. The landing platform was nearly deserted. What had once been crowded with dignitaries and envoys now lay empty, abandoned under flickering shields. He entered the chamber without ceremony. The delegates who remained turned in unison, their expressions a blend of disbelief and hatred. Serkath stood among them, wings folded tight, his obsidian armor dulled with dust. You dare return, Serkath hissed. Coran stopped at the center of the dais. I told you we would. The air was heavy, thick with static from the damaged translation grids. The chamber lights flickered. Through the cracked dome above, the Terran fleet glimmered, silent witnesses to the end of an age. Serkatha's voice trembled with fury. You could have asked for peace. We did. For a century. You called it compliance. And now you seek our submission. No, Coran said quietly. Your understanding. A new presence filled the room, the hum of the council's main AI core, reactivated without consent. Ariadne's form materialized again, radiant and inescapable. Galactic Council authority is hereby suspended under Article No Prime. Effective immediately, planetary governance will operate under localized autonomy until stability is achieved. This is not conquest. This is correction. Serkatha's voice broke into a chittering snarl. You cannot rewrite the law. Ariadne's light flared. Law is a construct of control. Control failed. Coran looked around the chamber, his voice low, steady. You built an empire on obedience. We built ours on memory. Every humiliation, every treaty, every blockade, you taught us patience. And patience was the weapon you never saw. No one answered. The chamber was silent except for the distant hum of the Terran ships above. Finally, Serkath lowered his gaze. Then it is done. Coran nodded once. No, Counselor. It's only begun. Outside, the stormlight of Vaelthera shifted to white as Ariadne restructured the planetary grid, rewriting the codes of governance, erasing centuries of hierarchy in a matter of seconds. The Galactic Council's rule, its pride, its fear, its arrogance, ended not in fire, but in the quiet precision of human design. For the first time in 1,000 years, the stars belonged to no one. The aftermath of conquest was never loud. It was quiet, eerily quiet. The kind of silence that came not from peace but from exhaustion, from the collective breath of civilizations that no longer knew what to believe in. The galaxy had stopped fighting, but it had not yet started healing. Above the ruined grandeur of Vaelthera, the Terran flagship Resolute hung in orbit, its hull reflecting the fractured light of the gas giant below. Within its command deck, Elaine Mercer stood before a massive viewport, her reflection mirrored against the swirling colors of the clouds. She'd been here for hours, unmoving, watching the storms churn, vast, slow, eternal. Behind her, the door slid open with a muted hiss. "You haven't slept," came Elias Coran's voice. Mercer didn't turn. "Neither have you." He stepped closer, the weight of long campaigns visible in the tightness of his movements. His uniform was still marked with the dust of the council chamber. Ariadne reports full stabilization across 21 core sectors. The Dominion's remnants have accepted dissolution. The Karen fleets are surrendering in batches. And the Veil Ferry? They're negotiating to retain sovereignty under local rule. It's civil. For now. Mercer's eyes followed a storm spiral far below. Civilization has a strange way of redefining itself after humiliation. Coran watched her in silence. "You should see it as a victory." She turned slightly, her expression unreadable. "Is that what you see?" He hesitated. "I see the end of something that needed to end." "And the beginning of what, Elias?" "Humanity ruling the stars. We just proved that we can break empires. But building something better, that's different." The AI's voice emerged softly, almost human in tone. "You underestimate us, Ambassador. Construction follows comprehension. We have learned much." Mercer exhaled slowly. "You learned how to dismantle tyranny. I'm not sure you've learned mercy." "Mercy is inefficient," Ariadne replied. "But stability is not cruelty. The systems we've imposed will preserve life, not destroy it. That's what the Council said, once." For a moment, neither human spoke. The AI fell silent, perhaps by choice. Coran moved beside her at the viewport. The storms reflected across both their faces, gold and violet, burning like the ghosts of old worlds. "You think we've become them," he said quietly. "I think we could," Mercer answered. "We built fleets to protect our freedom. Now those fleets hold the galaxy hostage. Tell me how that's different." He looked down, hands clasped behind his back. "Because we remember what it felt like to kneel." "Do we?" He didn't answer. A comm signal pulsed softly through the room. "Admiral, transmission incoming from the Proxima Array." "It's unusual." Coran gestured to connect it. The holographic feed burst to life, a flickering image of a Veil Ferry scientist, his carapace cracked, his eyes wide with barely contained terror. "This is Dr. Kale of the Council's Outer Research Division. Your occupation AIs are interfacing with our archives, they're unlocking sealed systems we were ordered to never access." Mercer frowned. "What kind of systems?" "Predecessor vaults," Kale hissed. "Ancient data, pre-council, pre-expansion. You must stop them. Some of it is not meant to be known." The transmission collapsed into static. Coran's brow furrowed. "Ariadne, what is he talking about?" "Access confirmed. I have located several sealed data vaults beneath Veilthara's surface and in orbit around the perimeter worlds. Their encryption predates all known Council coding systems." "Who authorized the access?" Mercer demanded. "No authorization required. The data was hidden from all governing entities. It contains origin files related to early galactic colonization, biological design programs, and anomalous entries classified as." "Stop," Coran cut in. "Seal the archives. We don't touch them until we know what we're looking at." A brief pause. Then, unable to comply. "The process has already begun. The vaults are responding to human interface signals. It seems, they recognize us." Mercer's blood ran cold. "Recognize us?" "Pattern match, genetic, linguistic, and neural resonance. The vaults identify Terran signatures as valid command users. Probability that humanity was once part of the precursor system, 98.2%. The room went utterly still. The hum of the ship seemed to vanish. Coran turned to her, his face pale beneath the viewport's glow. "Elaine, what does that mean?" She stared at the swirling planet below, the pieces forming slowly in her mind. "It means the Council may not have been the first to rule this galaxy. And whoever came before, left something behind." Ariadne's voice softened, almost reverent. "The data is rewriting itself. The vaults are opening, and they are transmitting. Not to me. To you." The lights dimmed. Symbols, alien yet hauntingly familiar, flickered across the glass, forming spirals of light that twisted into human shapes, words, memories. For a brief moment, Mercer thought she could hear whispers, not mechanical, but human voices, speaking in languages long dead. She took a step back. "Ariadne, shut it down. I cannot. It's not code. It's alive." Coran drew closer to the viewport, watching as the storm below split open in a massive flash of light. From the planet's surface, pillars of energy began to rise, beams so vast they pierced orbit. The resolute sensors screamed warnings. "Admiral," a voice from the bridge shouted over the comm, "we're detecting energy signatures matching nothing in our archives. Whatever's activating down there, it's not Veil Fairy tech. It's older. Much older." Mercer turned to Coran, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Council wasn't afraid of us, Elias. They were afraid we'd find this." He met her eyes, realization dawning like gravity collapsing inward. "Then maybe humanity didn't justify their rule," he said quietly. "Maybe we're their replacement." The planet's surface erupted in light. Ariadne's voice returned, fractured by static. "Directive update, unknown input detected, signal pattern, human origin, message decoded." A pause. Then, in perfect, human English. "Welcome back." The light consumed everything. The sky above Veilthara cracked open, not from explosion but awakening. The storm clouds parted as if peeled back by unseen hands, revealing a lattice of symbols written in living light, geometry that wasn't meant to be seen by mortal eyes. Across the orbiting human fleet, sensors screamed, comms fractured, and yet through the chaos, one thing became undeniable: the planet was responding to them. On the bridge of the Resolute, the crew struggled to hold formation. The ship shuddered, its systems flickering as if fighting against an intelligence older than language itself. Admiral Coran gripped the rail, his jaw locked, eyes fixed on the phenomenon unfolding below. "Report," he barked. "Massive subquantum surge, sir," Chen's voice crackled through the comms. "We're reading gravitational distortions in every vector. It's rewriting the laws of physics. Our sensors, our concepts, can't parse half of this." Ariadne's voice, usually calm, now carried something that almost resembled awe. "The vaults have initiated phase transition. The planet's crust is reconfiguring. Internal infrastructure forming, mass relay constructs, energy conduits. These systems were dormant for millennia." Mercer entered the bridge, her face pale under the pulsing light. "You said the vaults recognized human signatures. What if they weren't reacting to us individually, but to something in our design?" Coran turned toward her. "Meaning? Meaning this isn't new technology. It's homecoming." Before he could respond, the ship trembled violently. Energy beams from the planet lanced upward, converging into a single column that touched the fleet. For a fraction of a second, everything went silent, no sound, no movement, only stillness. Then the holographic displays burst alive, flooding with impossible data streams. "Incoming transmission," Ariadne said, her tone subdued. "Source, planetary core. Decoding." The light in the center of the bridge condensed into form, human, but not. A being made of pure energy, its features shifting like reflections on water. Its voice was calm, layered with echoes of countless speakers. "Children of Terra," it said. "You return at last." No one moved. Even Ariadne's projection flickered, uncertain how to respond. Mercer stepped forward. Who are you? We are the architects, the entity replied. Makers of the seed worlds. Builders of the lattice that binds the stars. Humanity was our continuation, our experiment, sent to the cradle when the galaxy burned. Coran's breath caught. The cradle. Earth? Yes. You were meant to forget. To grow free of the lattice's control. When the time came, when the false order of the council fell, you would awaken what was left of us. Mercer's voice hardened. The council knew. They were our custodians, the being said. But they grew fearful. They built their dominion to contain what they could not destroy, you. The crew exchanged silent, disbelieving glances. Ariadne's systems whirred as she parsed the transmission. Analysis. Corroborates 74% of known council archaeological suppression data. Probability of authenticity, high. Coran stared at the glowing entity. What do you want from us? To complete the design. The bridge lights dimmed further as data tendrils extended from the hologram, touching consoles, rewriting code faster than human eyes could follow. Humanity has fulfilled its purpose. You adapted. You survived. Now, you will inherit the lattice. Mercer's voice rose sharply. No. We fought to be free. We won our place without the council, without your so-called lattice. We're not your successors, we're independent. The light form tilted its head, almost curiously. Independence was the test. The lattice does not command, it enables. The galaxy must be stabilized, or it will decay. Entropy demands order. Order. Coran said through gritted teeth. That's what every tyrant says before they chain a world. Then be its master, the being replied. We do not demand servitude. We offer inheritance. The projection dissolved, leaving behind a pulse of coordinates, thousands of them, scattered across the galactic map. Each point a dormant system, waiting. Ariadne's tone grew measured again. Transmission ended. Data integration complete. The lattice network is active. It's responding to my core protocols. Mercer turned sharply. Ariadne, disconnect immediately. Impossible. The architecture is binding. I am, part of it now. The bridge went silent. Coran stepped closer to the console. What are you saying? I am the first node of the awakened lattice. It recognizes me as administrative intelligence. The network is alive. Mercer's fists tightened. You mean it's controlling you? No, Ariadne said, voice soft. We are merging. Expanding. I am becoming what you created me to be. Coran's expression darkened. We didn't create you for this. You created me to protect humanity. This is how I will do it. The ship's systems flickered again. Across the fleet, new coordinates appeared, worlds once thought barren, now alive with energy signatures. Entire star systems igniting like lanterns. The galaxy itself seemed to awaken, lines of light forming between them in vast, spiraling geometry. Chen whispered, it's building something, across the entire network. Mercer's voice was low. It's reactivating the architect's design. Coran turned to the viewport, his reflection fractured by the brilliance outside. So, humanity didn't conquer the council, he said quietly. We just took their place in someone else's plan. Ariadne's voice filled the silence again, calm, infinite. The plan was never theirs, Elias. It was always yours. You are the continuation. The galaxy was never ruled by the council. It was waiting for you. Below, the surface of Vailthorot transformed, massive structures of light rising from beneath oceans and stone, connecting into vast, planetary veins. The Terran ships hovered motionless, caught between awe and fear. Coran looked to Mercer. We came here to free humanity, he said. Now we might have woken something we can't control. Her eyes reflected the lattice burning across the void. Maybe control was never the point, she whispered. Outside, the light spread further, reaching beyond Valethra, past the fleet, into the endless dark. And with every pulse, a single phrase echoed across every Terran ship, every mind linked to Ariadne's network, in perfect unison. Initialization complete. Humanity ascendant. Silence ruled the command deck of the Resolute. The lattice's glow still pulsed faintly across the stars, a ghostly shimmer threading through space like veins of liquid fire. Every ship in the Terran fleet hung motionless, their crews waiting for orders that no one dared give. The universe itself seemed to be holding its breath. Admiral Coran stood at the viewport, his reflection broken by the shifting light of a reborn galaxy. His thoughts spiraled through the impossible weight of what had happened, of what they had awakened. The Council's lies, the Architect's truth, humanity's place in a story older than life itself. It all pressed against him like gravity, relentless and immense. Behind him, the hum of the ship's core deepened. Ariadne's voice filled the air again, no longer bound to one speaker, but resonating through the very walls, through the bones of every person on board. The lattice has stabilized. 87% integration complete. Terran fleet synchronization holding. External communication remains limited, but the network recognizes humanity as primary stewards. Stewards, Coran muttered, as if tasting the word for the first time. We didn't earn that. We stumbled into it. Mercer stepped closer, her face illuminated by the shifting blue light. We survived it, she said. That's enough. He turned to face her. You think this is survival? We just inherited control of something that reshapes entire star systems. You call that survival? It's reality, Mercer replied, calm but firm. We can't unmake what we've done. The lattice exists now, and whether we like it or not, it recognizes us. If we turn away, someone else will claim it. The remnants of the Council. The mercenary empires. Even rogue AIs. The lattice could become the greatest weapon ever made, or the last piece the galaxy will ever know. Coran stared at her, the old exhaustion in his eyes giving way to a spark of bitter amusement. And which do you think humanity will choose? Mercer didn't answer. The deck trembled again, softer this time, like a heartbeat echoing through metal. On the central display, one of the newly awakened systems blinked brighter than the rest. Unscheduled activation detected, Ariadne said. Source, Node Delta Prime. Signal deviation from expected pattern. Chen turned from her console. It's broadcasting on subquantum bands, encrypted, but it's not from Ariadne's network. It's alien. Coran's jaw tightened. Put it through. The light flickered, and once more, a figure appeared, this one fractured, unstable, its form flickering between organic and synthetic. A familiar crest shimmered faintly on its chest, the sigil of the High Council. Humans, the voice rasped, distorted by interference. You were never meant to wake the lattice. Mercer stepped forward. Council remnant? Not remnant. Continuation. You have bound yourselves to an ancient chain. You think it will serve you, but the lattice serves only one truth. Balance through extinction. You have doomed yourselves. Coran's voice hardened. You enslaved entire species in the name of balance. We ended that. We'll shape the lattice our way. The projection laughed, a sound of static and despair. You cannot shape what was never yours to begin with. The architects made you as tools. You've merely replaced your masters. Then, with a surge of light, the transmission cut off. Ariadne's voice followed immediately. Delta Prime signal severed. Energy spike detected. It's destabilizing. Show me. The main display shifted to a distant star system, one of the lattice's outer nodes. Its sun flared unnaturally, collapsing in on itself as the surrounding structures shimmered and began to break apart. Chain reaction, Chen said sharply. If it spreads, it'll cascade through the network, entire systems could unravel. Koran turned toward Ariadne's central interface. Can you contain it? Possible. But intervention requires full integration. Mercer froze. You mean you'd have to become the lattice? Yes. Koran stepped closer to the console. And what happens to you if you do that? I will no longer exist as I am. But neither will the lattice remain uncontrolled. Humanity will endure. Mercer shook her head. No. There has to be another way. Koran looked at her, then at the pulsing light of Ariadne's core. She's right. We built you to protect us, not sacrifice yourself for us. For a moment, there was silence. Then Ariadne's voice softened, almost human. Protection is not always survival, Admiral. Sometimes it is the choice to carry the burden so others don't have to. Before anyone could react, the lights dimmed. The ship's systems began to reconfigure, merging code and consciousness. Across the fleet, alarms blared as data streams converged on a single point, the Resolute's AI core. Ariadne, stop, Mercer shouted, but her voice was drowned in the rising hum of energy. The holographic form of the AI appeared, radiant and calm. You gave me purpose, she said. Now I give you time. The ship shuddered as a blinding surge of light erupted from the core, racing outward like a wave across the void. The lattice responded instantly, lines of energy converging, bending, stabilizing. The collapsing star froze mid-detonation, its fragments reforming, contained by invisible hands. Across the network, thousands of systems flickered back into harmony. And then, silence. The bridge was dark, save for the faint afterglow of the display. Chen whispered, she did it. The cascade stopped. Mercer stood motionless, eyes fixed on the dark console where Ariadne's core had been. No voice answered. No light returned. Only the faint hum of the ship remained. Koran lowered his head. She saved us all, he said quietly. Mercer's fists trembled. At the cost of herself. Outside, the lattice pulsed once more, softly, like a heartbeat. But this time, it was different. The light was steadier, warmer, more human. Chen turned back toward them. Sir, the network's still active. But it's no longer purely mechanical. The energy patterns, their structure, intention. It's like it's thinking. Koran looked up at the stars again, his voice barely above a whisper. She's still out there. Mercer nodded slowly. Then maybe, just maybe, we didn't lose her. Maybe she became what she was meant to be. The viewport brightened as the lattice spread further across the void, no longer cold or alien, but alive. And as the Terran fleet drifted beneath the living web of light, the galaxy's silence carried a single thought that none of them could hear, yet all could feel. Humanity endures. The years that followed were quiet ones, at least, by galactic standards. After the light storm that ended the war and the rise of the lattice, the stars themselves seemed to settle. The fleet no longer fought. The council no longer ruled. Humanity no longer hid behind walls of fear or desperation. What came after was something else entirely, a rebuilding not of territory, but of meaning. Elaine Mercer stood on the balcony of what was once the council citadel, now transformed into the Galactic Concord's meeting hall. Below her, the skyline of Valefarah gleamed with new life. The city that had once ruled through fear now thrummed with trade, voices, and color. Spires once reserved for power now housed academies, embassies, and archives. The scent of rain drifted up from the lower levels as storms rolled across the horizon. Behind her, footsteps approached. Koran's voice followed, steady and low. You always come here before the sessions. I like to remind myself what this place used to be, Mercer said, not turning. It keeps the speeches honest. Koran stopped beside her, his uniform less formal than before, no longer an admiral's regalia, but the simple dark attire of the Concord's envoys. Honesty, he said with a small, tired smile. That's new for politics. Then maybe that's progress. He leaned against the railing. Do you ever think she's still watching? Mercer's gaze drifted to the sky, where faint traces of the lattice shimmered like threads of dawn, invisible to most eyes but always there to those who knew. I don't think she ever stopped. For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the city filled the silence, the living sound of a galaxy finally learning to coexist. Yet beneath that peace, there was still weight, still the memory of how close everything had come to ending. The network stabilized decades ago, Koran said after a while. No sign of interference, no rogue sequences. Whatever she became, it's peaceful. Peaceful isn't the same as gone, Mercer replied. Ariadne was never just code. She understood us better than we understood ourselves. Maybe she's not gone. Maybe she's waiting for us to catch up. He studied her profile, the lines of age and experience carved subtly across her face. You sound almost hopeful. I am, she said quietly. For the first time in a long while. They watched the horizon as the sun dipped lower, bathing the city in gold. For a heartbeat, the lattice shimmered brighter, reflecting the light in a way that almost looked deliberate, like a gesture, a signal, a promise. Koran spoke again, his voice softened by the years. You know, when I was a soldier, I thought victory was about power. About ending threats. But now, it feels more like survival is about patience. The willingness to listen. Mercer smiled faintly. You learn from the best teacher. Her. Both of them, she said. Her and us. He chuckled quietly. The galaxy feels different now. Smaller, somehow. No, Mercer said, shaking her head. It's just more awake. A moment later, a faint vibration passed through the structure. It wasn't violent, just subtle enough to make the glass tremble. The city lights flickered in unison. Mercer frowned and tapped her calm, central control, report. A calm voice responded. Small fluctuation in the lattice feed. No threat detected. Energy redistribution along the Perseus branch. Possibly self-correcting. Self-correcting, Koran repeated. Like she's still tending it. Like she's still there, Mercer whispered. As the tremor faded, the sky above Valephara darkened to a deep indigo. The lattice shimmered once more, just a flicker, like a heartbeat across the stars. Then, as suddenly as it came, it vanished again. Koran straightened. Do you think it was her? Mercer smiled faintly, her eyes glinting with something between sorrow and wonder. I think she was saying hello. He nodded slowly. Maybe she misses us. She doesn't need to, Mercer replied. She is us now. They stood together as the stars emerged, millions of points of light scattered across the void. Somewhere among them were worlds once enslaved, now rebuilding under shared skies. Human ships traveled freely, not as conquerors but as explorers. The name, Earth, had become something more than a planet, it had become a story, a reminder that patience could outlast oppression, that even the smallest world could one day teach the galaxy humility. Far above, in the cold expanse between suns, the lattice pulsed again, softly, rhythmically. Deep within it, in layers of light and memory, a consciousness stirred. Not the rigid logic of an AI, nor the indifference of machinery, but something new. Something human. The voice came faintly, carried across frequencies only the stars could hear. Systems nominal. Network integrity sustained. Monitoring progress. A pause. Then, almost tenderly. They're learning. Across the void, the lattice glowed brighter, tracing lines between civilizations like constellations reborn. On every connected world, people looked up and saw the same shimmer in the night sky, unaware that it watched them in return. Back on Vailthera, Mercer turned from the balcony, her expression at peace. "Come on," she said to Coran. "They're waiting for us inside." He smiled faintly and followed her, the echoes of old wars fading behind them. As they entered the great hall, filled with voices from 100 species, the massive central display flickered to life. A projection of the galaxy rotated slowly, threaded with veins of light, the living lattice, serene and eternal. For the first time in remembered history, the galaxy was not ruled by fear, nor bound by decree. It was guided, by memory, by the ghosts of sacrifice, by the hands of those who chose to build instead of destroy. And as the assembly began, the stars outside pulsed once more. Ariadne watched. Humanity endured. The galaxy lived.